Hello, buddy. Crow here, and this is another
Questions. I need answers.
well, questions and answers. But I'm only going to look at technically two questions in particular, just in this video. Normally, I go through all the questions I ask in about a month and do that kind of thing. But this is something I kind of wanted to talk about in a separate video. And this question actually came a couple days ago from Spring. Actually, he sent two that day. Was it the 16th of February? So like 3 days ago. This was the release of Street Fighter V. And at about 3 o'clock, 3:20 my time, he says, "So I just purchased Street Fighter V, the physical copy, and before I play, I have to download 19 gigs of 19 gigs worth of data. Why? I bought the disc, not digital." And then about 3 hours after that, he sent another message. "I'm sending you another question hours after I bought Street Fighter V. So I started playing the game when the updates stop. Where is the arcade mode?" And he did that in all caps. Where is the arcade mode? I bought this game assuming, like, all fighting games, there would be an arcade mode. But nope, there isn't. How in the holy hell can companies release full-price games unfinished? Do I blame myself for not researching this game beforehand? No, because all fighting games have arcade modes, so the thought is that this game wouldn't. Didn't even cross my mind that this game doesn't at all. The story mode isn't until June 2016, and the offline mode, story mode, right now is 3 matches long per character and a survival mode. I feel cheated and honestly think after this game, I'm done with Capcom. And I know how you feel. I mean, in my case, I'm pretty much done with EA. EA would have to come out with something completely amazing before I buy a product from them again. But let's go over, part by part. The first part of this, he bought the physical copy. Why does he have to download 19 gigs of data? Well, to me, you were going in the assumption that game companies are releasing finished games, and they're simply not. In fact, them releasing any company especially a AAA game publisher like Capcom, releasing a high-profile game, there's a good chance that game is not complete. I am going under the assumption that every game released, regardless of its physical or digital, is not complete. And the fact that you buy the disc and you put it in, and it, instead of like installing the game is one thing. Okay, if it were to take that disc and install all the data on the hard drive, that's one thing. There's things to say about that. That could speed up. It doesn't have to access the disc as much. The game, would move along faster. But the fact that you're downloading a 19 gig file says that basically you've put in the disc and now you've got to download the game again, because what is on the disc is not how the game is now. So basically what's on the disc is completely outdated. And the day you buy it, on day one, what is on the disc is completely outdated. Now, I don't know how to put this, but that's kind of the advantage of the digital, buying digital. I'm not going to say that buying digital is all bad, even though I'm kind of against it. I'm kind of having to change my tune because, things change. But yeah, when I still feel that if you buy a physical copy of a game, you really shouldn't have to download the whole game again. That's happened to me a couple times, but there are instances where it doesn't happen. And I pulled this out because it's kind of related, but Ultra Street Fighter 4. I bought this on the PS3. You know what? Everything is in here. Doesn't need to go online. Doesn't need to download anything. All the DLC is on this. It even says over 100 costumes. And this is back when, it was in fighting games, especially Capcom fighting games. Well, let me rephrase that. Street Fighter games. It was just the costumes that were downloadable. And why? I always thought it was ridiculous that extra characters would be DLC. And the reason for that is a game like Street Fighter has got to be balanced. All the characters, not one character should have a major advantage over the others. So if you were to add on characters later, you might ruin the balancing. However, it's at a point now where they know that, oh, we don't have to provide DLC. We can just update the whole game and rebalance everything whenever. Now, if you buy the game digitally, and this is where I would say, yeah, for a PC, you know what, you could buy the game digitally. I actually have very little issue with that, I guess, because as the game gets updated, you don't have a physical copy. And you know what, if you're doing it on Steam, at least, you know, the Steam, I feel, would be around for quite some time, and maybe even 10 years from now, you'd still be able to go back to Street Fighter V that you've downloaded and still play that without issues. And if you have issues playing it through Steam, I guarantee you that there's some community out there that will make sure that it works on PC, whether through their own patching or whatnot. But if you were to do it on PS4, your options are limited. Downloading stuff on a console, I have just totally regarded that as a totally bad idea. And like, take it with like the Xbox 360. I bought and downloaded digital content on there originally when it was available, and now I'm realizing I've completely forgotten about that content. And I think that's what they're hoping for. You know, the PS4, you download all your stuff on the PS4. PS5 comes out, hypothetical. I'm not saying I'm expecting a PS5, but you sell your PS4, forget about all that stuff you've just downloaded on your account. And then you get your PS5, none of your stuff from your PS4 transfers over, and even if the same title's on there too, they probably want you to rebuy it again because, oh, the hardware is not compatible, which, you know, may be true for the PS3 and the PS4, but it kind of sucks that almost all the stuff that I had on the PS3 digitally downloaded, oh, I can't play that on the PS4. Whereas, like I said, with Steam and a PC option, as you know, with Steam it goes even further than the PC option, because I think it's just one account. You can log on to a Mac, for example. You know, I could buy a Mac, and the Mac games that are Mac compatible, I'd still be able to play without having to rebuy. So yeah, I you know, and you know, the updates and DLC, that's kind of yeah, it kind of just melds together. You don't realize it, I suppose. But again, you know, having to download all the stuff, 19 gigs, that's taking up hard drive space. That's why a 500 gig hard drive is not good enough for a PS4. You buy 20 games for the PS4, and guess what? You're out of hard drive space. That's why I had to upgrade my hard drive in my PS4, but now I'm kind of pissed that I did that. I shouldn't have had to do that. Like I said, like you said, the game should be on the disc. And if there needs to be updates, then you shouldn't have to basically re-download the whole game, taking up your whole bandwidth for however long, like 3 hours. I'm guessing it took you 3 hours from the time you put the disc in to play the game. That is pretty much unacceptable, I think, especially if you bought the physical copy of the game. So let's move on. Sending you another question: where is the arcade mode? Like I said, these game companies, they're selling you, they're not waiting for the game to be finished. And this is the assumption I'm going after on for every game going forward. The game's not done. For nothing that's being released these days. For almost nothing. Like Shovel Knight. Yeah, you could buy a physical copy of Shovel Knight. Good chance that's not going to be updated. I think. I don't know. But that's just the way and they're trying to get. And what's funny is I think a lot of people are just like, yeah, it needs to be updated. What do you expect? But the thing is, though, yeah, they just, it's kind of irritating that you can't just go into the store, buy a game, and expect it to be finished. Now you have to expect, you know, even if you buy a physical copy of a game, you have to expect it to be not finished if you're buying it day one. You're going to have to be expecting to have problems. Yeah, where's the arcade mode? Yeah, that missing. And the fact that they tell you, oh, we're working on it, will be done in June. I was like, well, why didn't you just wait for the game to be finished? But they don't want to wait because they want that money now. They want to release the game. They want to get the people's money. That way they don't have to wait till June. But you know what? There is a downside to that. You get all the people posting negative reviews about the game now because it's not done. But the real question is, in a year or two, will people still remember that this happened? Probably not. People are running out there and buying games brand new all the time. This kind of stuff happens all the time, and yet nobody says, hey, I'm not going to not buy this game until it's done. I'm saying that because I want to wait. Unless there's a game I know what I'm getting. You have to do your research. You're like, okay, if I'm going to buy this game, what has done it? And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't be... It's like if you bought a car and you paid the full amount for the car. Say it was, $15,000 car. And you pay, say, for example, you had $15,000 and you paid for, straight up for a car. And you get the car and they tell you, oh, well, it runs, but a lot of the features aren't there. You don't have a back seat. You only have, 2 front seats for right now. We'll get you a back seat in about 3 months. We don't have windshield wiper blades for you. Or we'll install those in a couple months. But yeah, we'll take all your money now. Now, are you going to trust them to... and that's the other thing. You're trusting Capcom that they actually are going to release an arcade mode in June. I mean, they don't have to. This is what they're saying. Now, if they don't, that'd be really bad reputation for them. Really bad thing to go for their reputation. Like, oh, well, they're selling shoddy games and they're not fixing them. That's the only reason I think these companies are fixing these games is so somebody goes, well, at least they fixed the game. Whereas if they don't have to. What if Capcom, for whatever reason, some issue comes up and they can't afford to finish the game? Now, I know that there's DLC characters with this too, which it's like they've planned all this stuff out in advance. It's like that Mortal Kombat X, where you're knowing all about what the DLC is going to be before the game is released. We shouldn't know what the DLC is going to be. The way it should work is they should finish a game, release it, and if the game is popular, then maybe release some extra DLC. So yeah, what else is there? Yeah, the story mode is free. Oh, they're going to turn around and fix that. They're going to fix that. I don't know. There are some cases where it's kind of fun to play an unfinished game, but it's not fun to pay full price for that game. Yeah, and Capcom, they're no stranger to this kind of stuff either, because we all remember the whole debacle with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where they wanted to they wanted you to pay for and download the extra characters, yet they were already on the disc. That DLC was already completed, and they didn't have to do anything. They just wanted you to pay more for it. But I think the bigger one was this game, Asura's Wrath. This personally pissed me off, because the game, it goes chapter by chapter. It plays out kind of like an anime, where every, there's a start and a beginning. It's like episodes. So you're playing like episodes of the story. And I thought that was kind of cool. And the game ends, and it tells you, oh, if you want to see the real ending, you have to pay for it. So they cut out the ending of the game and threw it behind a paywall. And yep, that is Capcom. So yeah, this is the kind of the baloney that I'm expecting from these game companies, and especially to pull it on a console. That's why, for me, I think I'm still buying games on the PS4 and stuff. I yet to do a pickups video. I'm expecting to do one in March. I'm still getting some more games, but now the games that I'm buying, I'm making sure they're complete. They're definitive editions. They're games like this. And by the way, I didn't buy this on the PS4 because, you know what? They didn't release a physical copy on the PS4. It was digital. And I'm sure as hell not going to buy a digital copy on the PS4. And what's funny is I have it on Steam. I think in one of the loot crates, I got the code for Ultra Street Fighter 4. So I have it on Steam. And that was one of the games that kind of convinced me that, yeah, it's kind of feasible to switch over to Steam. Because even my very, very, very low-end laptop can run Ultra Street Fighter 4 great. And that's the great thing about Steam too. Is like I could test it out on multiple computers, without having to pay for each computer. But yeah, definitive editions I have. There might be some instances where I bought a game and not realized that there was extra content, or there's simply some cases where you buy a game and you know there's DLC, but you know what? You don't need the DLC. But like Warner Brothers, they've got me in the habit of I'm never gonna buy any of their games. Well, I say never, but I bought Mad Max Day One. I love that game, but most of their games, I don't buy them until what they do is they release the game, and then a year or so later they release the greatest edition, a version of it that has all the DLC, or at least most of it, on the disc, and you could get that for half the price as well. So I just wait. They've got me trained not to buy their games when they're released. I'm gonna wait for the game of the year. So I did that with Batman, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City, and I'm sure as hell gonna do it for Arkham Knight, because I'm not gonna buy that game brand new. And then with Mortal Kombat X, you know, that was one of the games where like we knew about all this, you know, downloadable crap well before the game was actually released. I was like, well, I'm not gonna buy it unless they release something where all that content is already included. And sure enough, Mortal Kombat XL, which by the way is 40 in Roman numerals, so it's Mortal Kombat 40. I pre-ordered that off of Amazon, because that's the other thing with Amazon now, is like if you pre-order games on Amazon, you get 20% off. So that's a good deal. Even though it is $60, I think now it's worth the money. But with the 20% off, it winds up being more like $50. So I guess the moral here is don't buy games brand new. You can't anymore. If you're going to buy a game brand new, you have to know that the game is going to be incomplete. Anyway, this is just something I wanted to talk about, and I knew I was going to talk about it for a while. That's why I did this. But yeah, actually, to make another point, why even bother buying it on disc if you're going to have to re-download the whole thing? I mean, it makes what's on the disc completely useless. But I will say that physical games still have, no matter what they do, physical games will have one distinct advantage over retail games, and that is when you're done with it, you can get rid of it. You could sell it, you could give it to somebody. You cannot do that with the digital copy as of yet. I don't even think you can do that on Steam. Hey, if you can trade or give away a game on Steam, I'd love to know. I know you can gift a game, that is, buy it specifically for another person, but after you've installed it on your own machine and played it for a while, I know that you could get it refunded if you wind up not liking the game after certain criteria. But if you've had the game for years and I don't want it anymore, I can't get rid of it. That's the downside with digital content. But yeah, the fact that you buy a physical game and you still have to waste space on your own hard drive to do that, that's kind of, I don't know, it really should be unacceptable. What I would like to see in the future, I think that game consoles are toast. If they come out with another game console and it's disc-based, forget it. We shouldn't be relying on hard drives in game consoles to contain all the game information for every game we play. But what I would love to see is like a return to some kind of cartridge, where if the game, you can still hook up the system to the internet and whatnot. But get a phone call. Hang on a second. All right, it's much later now. I actually got off the phone, then had to go to dinner, and then I went to start editing the video, and actually I came back and started talking again, and I forgot what I was talking about. But starting to edit the video again, I was talking about what I'd love to see, and that would be like a system that is cartridge based, where the system hooks up to the internet, right? And if the game can be updated, you can update it through the cartridge somehow. That way the cartridge itself is up to date. You don't rely on your hard drive or whatever, just update the cartridge. I don't know how feasible that would work, but I think that would be a great idea, returning the cartridges, having everything on a cartridge. You can fit much more stuff now, like using technology we have now, we're still using disk based, and you can't save any information to the disk. If they could come up with some sort of media that can rewrite itself, given the protocols that, let's face it, that might be too easily hackable or whatnot. But just to have the current game code on a cartridge, something that's updatable easily, that you could just do at home. Yeah, or maybe you could take it to a kiosk or something like that. I think they've tried something like that in the past, but yeah, instead of relying on your own hardware for digital content, just update the media itself. I think that would be awesome. But then again, a lot of people it might not be feasible. Less and less people seem interested in the physical media. Why? Who knows? I mean, that was the other thing I was going to bring up that I totally remember is like, I still buy physical media for like movies and CDs even I still buy. But here's the thing, is that with movies and stuff, those never have to be updated. Could you imagine if like movies? Imagine if like Star Wars had come out on Blu-ray and George Lucas says, "Oh, you know what? Let's update that version," and then without your permission, he updates that version of Star Wars you had. I mean, that's pretty much what game companies are doing right now with the games they're giving you. They're giving you the game and then saying, oh, you know what? We changed our mind on what you have. We're changing that now. And imagine that if they did that with movies, where you bought a movie that you liked, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you put in the movie and it says, "Oh, before you watch this movie, we need to update it. We need to fix something." Say there was some product licensing in the movie, and that ran out, so they digitally went in and changed Coke cans to Pepsi cans or something, and you had to wait to update. You know what? I should shut my mouth and probably just gave somebody an idea. But yeah, imagine if that was the case with like your music and stuff, where we had to change these lyrics because it upset some people. So before you listen to the CD, we're gonna have to update it. Video games are in the same media as movies and music, music, books. They've done that with books too. So yeah. Anyway, I didn't want to record too much longer. This video is already over 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna say that's it. I've gone way off kind of subject from the original question, but it's just something I knew was going to happen and I wanted to talk about. Thanks everyone for watching. See you all next time. Bye.